Hi,
Hi.
everyone.
Hello.
Hello,
Hola.
hello. Hola, ¿cómo está?
Muy bien, gracias.
Happy Sunday, y'all.
Woohoo.
We're back for another episode of When It's Enough. And I'm Sarah Alley,
Yesenia Velázquez.
and we're coming to you live like we do every Sunday, and just open up a space to talk open-heartedly about life and about growth and about, tapping into who you are, letting go of those masks and shining your light, uncovering that not enough story and stepping into who you are and allowing yourself to have your full authenticity. Tonight we're talking about surrender and the gifts that you find, the lessons learned, the gifts found in surrender. So first we're going to start with sharing some really cool quotes we found on this topic of surrender to help inspire you as we think about this topic. And I would really love to hear from those of you who are watching. If you want to drop us, first give us some hearts, let us know that you're with us, let us know that you can hear us. And then if you would share, what does surrender mean to you? What does surrender mean to you when you think about surrender? And how does surrender play in your life? Okay, I'm gonna go first.
Okay. The moment of surrender is not when life is over. It's when it begins.
That's a good one.
That's good.
Surrender and accept that whatever is happening in the moment, the universe is working on your behalf.
Sometimes it's not the times you decide to fight, but the times you decide to surrender that makes all the difference.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Very true. Surrender to what is, let go of what was, and have faith in what will be.
I am learning to live between effort and surrender. I do my best and hope for what I want, but I do not resist the direction of the wind.
If you surrender completely to the moments as they pass, you live more richly in those moments.
To the mind that is still, the whole universe surrenders.
I really love that
I
one.
love that one.
I really love that one. Surrender is deeply misunderstood as an act of weakness. Surrender is the bravest and most lucid thing a human ever does. And that's why it's so precious to the divine.
Surrender is a journey from outer turmoil to inner peace.
Beautiful. And then we'll do one more. Surrender, giving up what we think should be happening for what is actually happening. Talk about clarity.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
If you surrender completely to the moments as they pass, you live more richly those moments.
Really good. So yeah, there's a lot of change, a lot of transition, a lot of shifting.
When it comes to surrendering.
In life, that's calling all of us to surrender. It's calling all of us to evaluate where we are, to look at the things that we might be holding on to, and there's so many ways which we're being asked to surrender. And so we personally have been talking about this topic, which is why we're talking about it tonight. And I imagine that there are many of you right now in this time who are maybe sitting in that space and looking at this or feeling the call to surrender. feeling the call to let go of something, or being asked to let go of something, having to sit in the midst of transition that may be really hard to actually surrender to, and wanting to open up a space and talk more about this and dive into this topic about surrender and the gifts that we find and can discover through surrender, what can be found on the path towards surrendering too, right? Because surrendering means making the choice and the decision to actually let go, right? And there are lessons that you learn before coming into that, as well as lessons that you learn once you do. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight.
Yeah. Surrendering, yeah, is something that is not easy to do. But when we hold on to the one thing that we want to change,
Yeah.
it creates too much turmoil. It creates a lot of pain. It creates a lot of tension. It creates a lot of stress in our lives, in our inner selves, And there are so many ways or things that we go through life that we learn to surrender, because when we don't surrender, we make it worse. That's from my experience. When I don't surrender, to things that I think I can fix or I can control or I can do on my own. But surrendering is the most beautiful thing you can do for your own well-being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Self-care.
Self-care, yes.
Surrender can be definitely a part of self-care. I think about some of the things going on personally when it comes to surrender, and also how that's mirrored in the world around us. Like, we're facing a lot of change, like so much change, and it can be really hard, right, to sift through those changes. And I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with people who feel like, I think I know I need to let go, or I know I need to, I'm having a hard time accepting something, or I'm really struggling with this, right? And wondering, like, where's the place that's like holding on? Where's the place that can't allow that surrender, and really making or having an awareness about the part that doesn't want to surrender. Or when you do come to that place of surrender, like, what is it about questioning that, right? When you make that decision and you're like, was that the right thing to do? Did I let go? Like, all of those things around surrender come up and are good to explore. I realized is walking the journey of letting go what I thought should have been and learning to embrace what is to come, giving up all material stuff from a 35-year relationship, starting over, focusing on self-care for me, my spirit and soul.
Beautiful.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. That is a huge process of surrender and letting go.
Yes.
Gosh, like, we could dive into relationships because there's so many ways which surrender takes place in all different facets. But man, when it comes to relationships, surrendering and letting go is huge. And I want to totally commend you for taking that step, for the courage and the bravery it takes to start over and to focus on yourself, right? That self-care, feeding your spirit, feeding your soul. And I find so much relationship is like that is it's like an alchemist, right? Of that process of surrender. What are you learning about that?
About relationships? Yeah, it's like we were talking, it's like, how do you surrender going into the relationship, and how do you surrender coming out from that relationship? Surrendering into a relationship is not expecting, that whatever CD or cassette, or to me cassette, because I'm not in I'm still in the cassette era. It's like those words, whatever we were implanted, in our subconscious, from the relationships that we've seen from our parents, from whoever was in our lives at those moments that you think our relationship should be.
Yeah.
is surrendering to the expectations of how a relationship should really is, you know. And really, for me, what I've learned is relationship is letting that person be who he is and letting me be who I am. And at the same time is seeing the red flags that that person is showing you, you know, because the more you spend time with that person, the more you see red flags and the more you see like the loving part or, you know, whatever. But for me, it's like I didn't surrender in a relationship that I was in. I actually wanted to control, you know, the expectation of what this person should be. But when you do that, you don't surrender and you don't let that person show you who he really is because he's just seeing what you really want. So in that process, it's like you don't see the red flags so fast because you're pretty much asking for what you want all the time. So surrendering to the expectations and just letting it be.
And I can only imagine, like, even being in a relationship for a long period of time, like, so oftentimes we move into relationship, like, I'm really thinking about this concept, right? Or even I would say like value of authenticity, right? And how often are we engaging in relationship with one another fully authentically, like whole within ourselves as who we are, right? And operating from that place, because there's like going into a relationship and then losing yourself. Right? Or when you're in a relationship with someone, like I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who used this term about getting out of the fix-it business, and it was like, oh my God, I like cracked up. I was like dying laughing because that's so much of, you know, relationship can be like losing sense of yourself or trying to show up a certain way, right? Or taking on certain duties, right? And that can come from that place of fixing or rescuing or managing, right? And how much like relationship, right, can be this process of like, how do you really let go and surrender all of those mechanisms, all of those um all of those attachments, and really allow yourself to be authentic? And when you start expressing that authenticity, when you start communicating like boundaries, right? Emotions, feelings, needs, wants, desires, and when those things they're not resonating, they're not being received, they're not being honored, right? You know, that it's like another process. Like relationship itself is such a process of surrendering in and through, right? And then there's also the surrender if through that change and transition coming, like, to surrender to having to let go, surrendering to, you know, the willingness to move on, even when it's really hard, right? And having to start over. I think about so much of like how that piece of having to start over can be what's really hard about letting it go, right? Even though you come to a place where it's like, this relationship isn't serving me anymore. I'm not honoring myself and my needs in this relationship anymore.
That's huge to surrender that way. It's like to really notice that that relationship is not serving you in any way. And, you know, like you said, getting out of the fixing business is what we try to do as empaths over here.
Right. And as women, let's be honest, as women always trying to make things work.
We try to make things because that's what they told us, you know, like you can make this work and because you're the woman of the relationship.
Right. Handle, organize, orchestrate, nurture, nourish, care for,
love,
take on, manage.
So is
What goes on?
that wanting to fix that person because we fall in love with potential?
Right. Can we stop? Ladies, can we stop falling in love with
Please,
potential?
Can we stop?
Can we be like,
That's
like
being
in our
authentic.
worthiness? Yeah.
That's being authentic.
Authentic.
It's really realizing that we do fall in love with potential.
Yeah.
You know, when really the only person that you can fix, love, and care for is you yourself and only us.
Yes.
So when you see that, you need to surrender to that knowing that you cannot fix anyone.
Yeah.
To the knowing that that relationship is not bringing anything to you.
Yeah.
Surrendering to that, okay, I accept how you are,
yes.
but I let you go as you are,
yes.
because you are not bringing anything good for both of us. Actually, this
right.
is not happening.
It's not serving both
it's
of
not
us.
serving both
right.
of us. So,
it's like it is serving in a way where it's like the clarity that maybe you need to see that you're not seeing, right? To make that choice or that decision, you know. And also, it's not in service,
I'm
right?
representing Peru right here. People.
Exactly.
I'm representing Peru.
Peruana. Yeah, it's like it's really interesting. And yes, surrendering, I love that. Surrendering to learning a new me is what you're finding to be one of your strengths.
Beautiful.
I love that.
Yeah.
It is. That's that resilience.
Yes.
Part and that like coming into your authority. Speak truth. It's like, you know, surrendering to, you know, like that place of resilience of like, oh wait, I am a whole. I have my own authority and power. Oh man, I'm strong. I am capable, right? And honoring that, right? Yeah, I mean, like surrendering to self.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's a whole other way to take it.
Yeah.
And how do you surrender? You know, sometimes in surrendering externally to things, right, is actually surrendering to your true self, to your spirit, to your soul that's calling for something more, right?
And it calls.
It calls.
And it calls. And
it calls. It'll be calling again and again.
It calls in a soothing way at the beginning.
It's like
what do we do?
What are you doing?
You don't surrender at that moment.
I always
until
right.
Something explodes.
Right.
And they're like, okay, time to live.
You know, a good thing to say is to be like, okay, I don't need a brick house to follow me anymore.
Exactly.
Thank you. I don't need pain. I don't need crushing pain anymore. That's cool. I'll listen.
Yeah.
I'll listen. Yeah. You know, and so many times these things are about us deepening our connection to that spirit.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Exactly.
And surrendering over to that, surrendering over to the higher self.
Because that voice is always there. That inner voice, your intuition, your higher self is always talking to you.
Mm-hmm.
But we sometimes choose not to listen until something huge happens, and then you just have to take that surrendering time, that surrendering obedience, you know, to just take it and be like, yeah, it's time. Even though it hurts, but it's time to surrender.
Right. And ultimately, you know, and I don't know about how, you know, those of you who are listening or if you're catching us on the replay, give us some hearts. You know, when it comes to making that decision, right? In regards to letting go. There's the, you know, it's like, what are the lessons learned? What are the gifts that come when you do take that step forward? And that is what I find is the part that is so revealing, you know, is like what blossoms. Like I think so many people question, like, was this the right thing? Like, did I do the right thing? Moving on. And what I would say is, are there lessons that you're learning? Are there ways that you're growing? Is there like a deep process of awakening happening in your life?
Yeah.
Is there like a light that's being brought forward, right? Like that, like what you're talking about, Gabriella, in, learning a new me, right? And finding that to be a strength. You know, are there like seeds of change that are having a positive, transformative impact on you from letting go? That's how you know that you're making the right decision. That's how you know you're honoring the call within that has been whispering to you over time, right? That's like, yes, keep going because there's another path. There's another, there's another way that's showing itself. And what I'm learning too is that when it comes to authenticity and wholeness, like, relationship works when two people are being whole and real and authentic. And the minute that someone is not operating that way, has to go. You know? It's
Don't hold
really
on.
about two people being able to show up whole. And if you can't have that, lean into, right? And being vulnerable, lean into, what can feel discomfort, lean into conflict, because what I'm understanding even with conflict is that, it's teaching you, it deepens bonds, it deepens trust, it deepens awareness of getting to know, one another. It's conflict can be a really good thing if it's being used in a way that helps to grow, right? And to deepen those bonds. But if that's not what's happening, right? And there's a lot of expectations and fear and stuff getting in the way, it's like,
If it
probably
only
time to
comes from
surrender.
if it only comes from one side, the one side that is only showing up, saying, opening up, being vulnerable, saying all the feelings or all the things that you think that relationship is not being fulfilled or is working.
Yeah.
And it's only one side of the person, one side that is only saying and trying to make it work. And then you feel this heaviness, you feel stress, you feel all the negative emotions that you can feel by trying to make it work, and the other person is not doing anything. It's time to leave.
Right.
It's time to leave. And then when you leave, when you make that decision, and then you feel that peace inside you, when you feel like a huge weight just lifted out of your shoulders, that's when you know that you did the right choice. That's when you know that surrendering to the knowing, to the understanding, to the every experience that you went through, it was true. Surrender to that what you're making the right decision. And not only in romantic relationships, but also when it comes any relationship, like me being a mom, surrendering to let my son go and live his life. He's a dad now, he has 2 beautiful babies, he has a beautiful wife, he has his own family. So letting go to that, being my only son, and surrendering to the knowing that he's gonna be fine, that I don't have to worry, that I don't have to think if he's okay, if he's not okay, if like I always did when he was little. And it's surrendering to the understanding that God is with him, and that he's protected, and that my prayers towards him, for him, it's gonna be okay, that everything is fine, that I'm not losing a son, that I'm actually gaining. I'm gaining a daughter, I'm gaining 2 beautiful babies. So it's surrendering to different experiences that life put in your path, that it's gonna continue to put in your path, and it's understanding, because what I know is that when you surrender, you connect more with your inner self. And when you let go of things that are not fulfilling your wholeness as a person, and is not helping you in any way, it's the most beautiful thing you can do for you. Is surrender to the knowing that by letting go what's not filling you up, what's not, structuring you into the wholeness that you're supposed to be.
Right. Yeah. Like it's, surrender. And it's like, life is always calling us to surrender.
Always, yes.
Because life is about exploring impermanence. Life is about exploring and recognizing that everything is temporary.
Everything is temporary.
Nothing lasts here, right? Everything's temporary. And it has to be. It has to go. Like something has to go for something to be birthed forward. Like going through life is a constant process, right? Of like, of receiving and having to let go in order to receive, right? And that is the process of change. And surrender is always asking us to get comfortable with knowing that where we're letting go of is drawing us closer towards something else that we need to experience, something else that we need to understand, something else that's going to be for our growth, that's going to have like a positive effect, a positive outcome, right? And it's going through the challenge of that is the teacher. It's like the challenge is the teacher. It's the opportunity, right, that takes us or actually draws us closer to something more beautiful, because we can take our pain, we can take our
discomfort,
the discomfort, and we can, it gives us wisdom, right, that we take with us, that we get to learn, or we can get to extend and give and help another person who's going through that same thing.
Yeah, we get to evolve.
We get to evolve
into this beautiful being that we didn't know that we were when we were in that, experience, in that whatever relationship, in that whatever we bring into our lives. It's we evolve from that by learning, surrendering that is the best for us, and that there's still love. There's still love from ourselves for ourselves that we bring in, by taking away everything that's blocking our growth.
Yeah. And I want to speak to even this process of surrender, because, with COVID right now, this pandemic, right, has had all of us surrender in some really major ways. And I personally know friends who, like they were starting on growing their business, or like opening the doors to their, to these new offices and starting these new ventures, right? And this pandemic came in, right? And it changed everything. There are people who lost their jobs, who lost their income. There are people who had to close their doors. There are people who, have had such a sea of loss, and that, and feeling like being forced to surrender, right? It's like, I had my sights set on this, right? I was building this. I had this vision. I had this dream. This was what I've been working for. This is what I've been creating. This is what I want. And then life came in and was like, and in doing that, and just tearing down these ways of which we were maybe attached to an idea or an outcome or something that we wanted, and we have to just surrender to what is, and it can feel really painful. And there's a thought that I had, in that there, sometimes there's casualties that happen in the process of growth. And sometimes we are, like as an innocent bystander, we'll say, like as a bystander, are impacted or become one of those casualties, right? Like there's a lot of people who have lost something in this time, right? But as a way of looking at how that's the call of surrendering is revealing to us a greater awareness, right? Of like what can we create in terms of um, solutions or in terms of innovation, of thinking differently about how we have been operating in the world that's calling us to look at something in a new way with a new lens, right? How is this resilience that we're being forced into, right? To have to be resilient in this time, what is that resilience teaching us or showing us or preparing for us individually and collectively, right? Around the change that we actually really want to have. Like so many people talk about wanting, you know, workspaces or environments that are more connected, or thinking about how we do business in the world that is more connected globally, right? Like that we have some sort of some deeper responsibilities, or understanding our responsibilities with one another, or a relation to one another, or wanting to free up time and space, or wanting to give people flexibilities in their jobs, with their schedules. Like there's all these things that we say we want to have or experience, and perhaps we have to go through these casualties. We have to surrender to these really hard moments because it's birthing forward something more, something greater, something new. That resilience is calling for us to become innovative and to think differently, because we're trying to create something new.
And it's always in the new, that we don't know. It's always in the new that we evolve ourselves, that we grow as a better person. Because when we stay in the what we know,
right, the comfort zone, let's get out of our comfort zone,
we get stuck.
Yeah.
So surrendering to the painful experiences is hard. But surrendering is easing that pain. Is helping your inner self work as the higher self to let you find the answer of what you need when you surrender.
Yeah.
When we try to control and fix it and do it on our own way,
right,
we're blocking the path of our higher self to tell us this is why this happened, or this is how it had to happen for you to become this person that you are now. Look the beautiful flower that is blossoming just by opening up, by surrendering, by letting things be, and by letting me, your higher self, work on this experience, problem, relationship, anything that you want to call it, whatever title, label you want to put, or whatever you're going through, it has an answer. It has an ease. There is love. There is that answer and that guidance and that path to follow and continue to walk on, knowing, surrendering that God is guiding you and He's really holding your hand. You know that your higher self is there with you, connecting with you and giving your answers. But we have to be in that surrender place, that quiet, place where these whispers are coming and telling you, you're okay. Everything is okay. All is well. I love you.
Oh my gosh. Surrender. Yes. Surrender. Surrender is also, so much is also the calling of seeing the ways of which you're being supported.
Yes.
Which you're being supported. There, I have a story of, a real quick story is I lost my mom 2013, 2014. And I was finishing my last year in school. Okay. I had been, because I went to a very wealthy, expensive private school. We won't talk about that. But I didn't have the money to finish my last year in school. My mom had passed away, and I used like almost the last of my paycheck to pay for the last bill for that my third year of school. And so I didn't have any money in my bank account. I didn't know how I was going to be able to finish my senior year because I did not have the money, and I had run out of like federal loans and grants, and I was looking at scholarships, but like nothing was coming through. And my mom passed away, and she lived in New Mexico, and I'm here in Colorado, and I didn't know what to do. It was like it was totally unexpected. It was completely devastating, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how I was going to get there. I didn't know how I was going to take care of anything. And I literally, like, for someone who has been like a recovering type A, recovering high performance perfectionist, like, I'm really learning how to let go of that. I had to surrender. I was like, I don't know how I can take care of this. And that's when like people showed up and showed out. People like put money together for me to help me get to New Mexico. Like there was a family who like worked with a church or a synagogue that my mom was a part of because my mom's Jewish. Yes, I'm Jewish. I grew up that way, but I don't have any religion. But yeah, that's my family's roots. And they footed the bill to take care of her funeral arrangements. um like a friend paid for me and my friend who was traveling with me for a place to stay. Like they just like took care of the bill, like everything was completely taken care of for me, as like and it was a moment where I had to surrender. And there were so many times where I would not surrender because, as being a person who grew up as a single child, with a parent who had, who was disabled and had, some issues. I always learned how to be independent and how to take care of myself. And I was the type of person who didn't really know how to lean on other people. I didn't really have that sense of understanding community and support. I didn't have that. I didn't have connection to family who was there to support me. And so at that time, it was such an opening for me of recognizing that this moment is calling you to surrender and watch the ways of which you are supported, right? In this devastation, in this chaos, in this pain, in the midst of this transformation, right? To see the support, to see the ways of which you are being helped. And oftentimes we can look at the transition and change and we can get bitter and resentful and angry about it, right? Because we're just seeing the loss. But if you actually like span out and see like what support are you getting? How is love being demonstrated to you right now? How are you being held? Who are the people in your life who are showing up for you? Right? Sometimes surrender is like a lens of clarity that's calling us to see the love that's there. That's calling for me as a deeply spiritual person. And like that's why we talk about God. This is why we talk about spirituality. It's why we talk about soul, because it's like these moments can be opening up to us to see like, the ways that source, the ways that divine, the ways that God is present there, right? And it's through the actions of other people. It's through the way that people are supporting you, or it's through the space that you're being given to lick those wounds, right? It's like, or the resources that are coming forward, or those relationships that you may not have thought were very connective, right? That suddenly it's like these are the people who are supporting you. That you're like, whoa,
I never thought.
I never thought, right? Surrenders all can be a process of revealing to us the ways that we are supported and loved.
Yeah, and like you said, you were a person that you will do everything on your own, right?
Yeah.
So the allowing to be helped, the allowing to to
let
to
go.
yeah, to let go and let
receive,
yeah,
receive,
exactly, receive.
receive. How
Because
hard is that sometimes to
it's
receive?
hard sometimes to receive because you're already thinking, what do you want in return, or like
Yeah.
this. But it's really surrendering to the knowing that God had put everything, that happened.
Yeah.
But because that happened, He already has everything in control.
Yeah.
By you surrendering, He put everything for you, just is for you.
Yeah.
And for you to see His amazing grace, towards us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing, the process of surrender. And so the last thing I would talk on is around surrendering to who you are. Like so often, and I am totally guilty of this. For forever, I just kept thinking, like, that place of like judgment, right? The judgment that we have of ourselves. For forever, I was criticized, critiqued on my voice, how I talked, my body, who I was. And I grew up, I experienced narcissistic abuse, which was constantly making me feel like invalidating me,
inferior,
making me feel like I was inferior, that I wasn't capable, that I wasn't. And I was carrying this not enough story in me. And it's been a process of dismantling the not enough story, getting in relationships with people and friendships with people who invalidate, who gaslight, who make you feel like you're not worthy, who make you feel like you're not enough, right? Who make you feel like something's wrong with you. I didn't realize I was recreating this pattern, and it was an opportunity for me to learn and to see and to recognize this not enough story that I was carrying inside of myself. And that it was blocking me from being able to surrender to like the gifts that I have, to surrender to allowing myself to be me, to surrender to be able to express and communicate like I'm doing here openly with you all, right? To share my feelings, to share my story, to talk openly, to be heart and heart with other people, to stop trying to be perfect, to stop trying to be some imposed image, or needing to, like all the ways that I was holding myself back from just being, that I wasn't believing in my own ability, right? And my purpose and my design to be here, and what I want to do, who I want to be, or thinking that you have to get some sort of degree, or you have to, have like tons of training, or, you don't talk right, or, like all these judgments, right? That get in the way of you just honoring who you are, being who you are, doing what you love, right? So much of that and uncovering that not enough story is the call to surrender it over to your potential, to taking that first step and being like, okay, I'm going to do this. Okay, I'm going to try this thing. Okay, I'm going to show up in a different way. Okay, I'm going to share this boundary, or I'm going to tell this person my feelings, or I'm going to express myself, or I'm not going to hold back in a certain way that I have because I'm not honoring who I am, right? How we allow ourselves to step into who we are, into our purpose, into our dreams, into, the desires that we have. She knows.
Yeah.
We know this. You know this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's that comparison, that you were brought up with when you were little. Is like me. It's like I was always compared, to my sister. I was always compared to other people, and I was always like diminished, and I always like me to do this right now. It's so huge.
So it's like, we're going to go live.
Because I always had this, like I never trusted myself on like speaking the way I'm speaking right now because I always was make fun of my accent as I was in high school or working in different places. People would make fun of me, or they will like when I will speak, they will ask me twice, huh, what are you saying? Like just making fun of me. And at the same moment I spoke up, and I
yeah.
by having those experiences, it makes you have the courage to say, you know what, in a joke way, but not really in a joke way, I will say, I can cuss you out in English and Spanish. So continue to mess with me and you'll see what's going to happen to you. So, experiences in life really makes you see the beautiful self that you are.
Yeah.
And and erasing all that imprints that you were taught or
that's a good way to put it. Imprints.
Yeah.
It's conditions.
Yeah, conditions that you had when you were little and growing up, experiences in life, friendships, relationships, people, whoever you let in your circle, and you're still letting in your circle that doesn't, is not allowing you to really show the authentic and loving and amazing and the perfect, beautiful self that you are.
Unique.
Unique. We all are unique in our own ways.
Yeah. So
we don't need anyone toxic, anyone that's actually suffering, because when they suffer, they want you to suffer with them. So
no need to be hanging out with misery.
No need for that. So yeah, it's really allowing and being authentic.
John is always tea. It's tea in our mugs. Yes.
And a llama.
Peruana.
Yes, Peruana over here.
Yeah, it's definitely allowing that your authenticity to come forward.
It's allowing yourself to show up as who you are.
Yeah.
Without pretending or without wanting for people or family or whoever to like you. Just show up. This is who you are.
Do you like
you? Do you like? Yeah, exactly.
Do you like you? Are you in your joy?
Yeah.
Are you being loving to yourself and other people? Then you know that you are showing up authentically and sharing from an authentic place, not in a place that's like I'm better than other people and that's how I'm operating in the world. Not from the place of ego that's trying to, that's presenting, right, this way of being, right, that's like a guard, a wall, right, that's like actually not allowing people in, right? Are you in your heart? Are you loving yourself, right? If that's where you're coming from, and you're speaking your truth, you're showing up, you're allowing yourself to be authentically you, that's what you need to be doing. That's what we need more of. Because what I know is that when we show up in our full authenticity, where it's coming from that self-love place, and self-love is not individual, it's an extension. When you have self-love, then that means that you extend love to others. That's the process of self-love, is actually walking as love in the world. People don't think of it that way. When you are in a place of self-love and authenticity for exactly who you are, how you are, in the body, in the skin, with the voice, with the accent, with whatever that is, who you are, and you love yourself, that is transformative. That is impactful. That extends, that allows, that calls in, that invites others, that creates safe space, that transforms, right, in a positive way. That's what surrender can reveal.
Yeah. Yeah, because when you surrender, you transform. And when you transform everything around
Growth.
you, everything inside you, and that everything that you're attracting is transforming by you surrendering.
Yeah.
You're really letting everything be how it's meant to be and supposed to be without us, stressing, controlling, and wanting to change it. No, just surrender.
Yeah.
Surrender.
So
yeah.
Thanks for joining us tonight. Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
If you're catching us on the replay, share this with someone who you think could use this message on surrender. All of us are being called to surrender in some way, in so many different avenues in our lives. Sometimes that process can be really painful. And and I just want to give note, like, if you're questioning the decisions that you're making, or like if you walked away from something that you thought, like, but isn't it supposed to be this? Like, ask yourself, are you growing from it? Are you learning from it? Is that shift providing you gifts, lessons, opportunities, wisdom? Then know that you're on the path, right? Like there's nothing happening here that shouldn't be happening. Everything's happening and designed for your own wisdom, to know what it is to be resilient, to know your strength and your power, to understand who you are to your core, right? Which is an incredibly powerful being, which has a very deep capacity to love, which has a very deep purpose to create change in this world, which can be a bridge that can build, that can assist, that can support. Surrender is showing us all of these things, right? I want to leave with this poem. So this is in a book called The She Book. I love this book so much. And I would like to do a giveaway moment right now. And for anyone who watches this video, and if you've made it all the way to the end with us, awesome. But if you...
That's the Familia Ruelas.
Yes, Gabriela.
She did it. She's been with us.
You've been with us this whole way, girl. Send me your address. If I would like to give 2 copies of this book away, it has some beautiful poetry in it that will literally feed, feel, nourish your soul. And it talks about life in ways that are just like so beautiful. So I want to read this. It's by Tanya Markle. Beautiful book here. So she says in this poem from 56. Yes, Susanna, yes. So if you like, drop a heart, drop a like, share this with someone. Share this video with someone who needs to learn or open up to the message of surrender right now. And I will pull names and let you announce the winners, and I will reach out to you personally, get your addresses, and have this book sent to you. Okay? So she says, don't waste your time on anyone or anything that makes you feel less like yourself. I found that one of the worst feelings in the world is waking up to my soul whispering, stop being an imposter. This isn't you. So I return to the trees, and that is where I see my reflection and feel the scratchiness on my shoulder blades as I grow back my wings. I let go of who I was to dare and discover who I am in the freedom of this moment. And just like the wind, I know I'll change again, but gasp with excitement at the mere thought of soaring in the breath of now. R.I.P. old self, you served a great purpose.
Amen. I love it.
Come on,
Carmen, I love you.
Step into your true self.
Carmen.
Carmen, hi Carmen. Oh my God. Besitos. So thanks for joining us. We love you all. And share this with someone who could use this message. Like, share. I will pick names and give this book and send it to you. And it's a beautiful book, you guys. And you can get it on Amazon or your local bookstore like Barnes and Noble. Look for it. It's great.
Love yourself by surrendering.
Embrace it.
Embrace it.
Trust.
Trust. Feel everything.
Feel your wisdom.
It's always
Honor
for
your
the
wisdom.
best of you and
Yes.
for the wholeness of you.
Yes.
We love you.
We love
Sending
you.
you hugs, virtual hugs.
All right, bye.
See you guys.
everyone.
Bye. Thank you.